Merry Christmas to all of you! Usually for year-end, I aim to do one Christmas and one New Year special, with one a dragon and the other a dinosaur. For this year's Christmas special, I'll do a dragon, and if things go according to plan, my New Year one will feature a dinosaur. So, the Christmas one, and I can find no more oddly appropriate dragon than this. This is the Capcom creators model Monster Hunter Nergigante, and right off, you see one of the defining features of this dragon. It's bristling with a huge array of spikes. And something in this reminds me of a Christmas tree. I remember as a boy helping to set up the family tree, putting in branch after branch, and that's what all these radiating spikes remind me of. Now, this thing is big. The latest creators model was the Fatalis, which I passed on because the pose didn't inspire me. It was crazy expensive, but also the sheer size of it. Now look at this comparison. For reference, this is the creators model Raphalos here. For context, here's how big it is next to the Wilson T-Rex. However, I believe that this Nergigante statue is where the creators model started on the road to getting massive. It's 30.5 centimeters or 12.1 inches tall, 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches wide, and 26 centimeters and 10.2 inches deep. Again, have a look against the Raphalos. In a way, it is fitting, as Nergigante is an elder dragon that actually feeds on other elder dragons. The color is accurate, being mainly black, but with purple and orange accents. For example, here and here. And you can't fail to notice the iconic spikiness of Nergigante. This array of spikes bristle all over. These can grow, regrow if broken off, and even fire off like a ranged weapon. But there are also these two massive horns on the head, and with that, let's start with the head, as we often do. Now there's something very primal in the visage of Nergigante, as you might expect for an elder dragon presumably centuries old. These baleful yellow eyes, the large and jagged row of fangs are the stuff of nightmares. Spikes from the forehead to the chin. Continue that spiky motif. And look at these humongous horns. The form is very nicely sculpted. You can imagine it laid down in layer after layer of keratin that gradually got twisted over time. And then down the neck, or should I say up the neck this time. You can make out the detail very clearly here. Then here into the body, yet more of those spikes, hard and tough. Yet it's not just a plain black, but glistening with the kind of sheen that suggests a body secretion of some sort, making it look very organic. And we can go down the back. To the tail, for you to see more of that wonderfully sculpted detail. Ending in this incredibly spiky tail club with a stinger at the end for good measure. This is like a tail club / Tagomizer combo times 10. And any monster hunter at the receiving end of this, well, let's just say that all his remains will probably never be found. And going back to the front, you can see the color transition between the pink and the yellow on the chest and the abs. Then the arms, and look at this array again, creating a kind of canopy over the vulnerable elbows. Then tracking down the forearm. Then here on this side too, that really just weaponizes the entire elbow forearm area. Going down into the feet, you see these tarsal scutes. And then the, again, very big claws. Just very well painted. I wish more dinosaurs could have claws painted like this. And as an elder dragon that hunts and eats other elder dragons, he looks like a real primal force of savagery that relies on brute strength to rend enemies limb from limb. The legs are pretty much obscured by the wings, and in fact, let's look at these now. Of course, it's amazing that this thing would even fly in real life, weighed down as it is by all these spikes and these heavy-ass horns. There really seems to be no weak spot in this elder dragon, with all vulnerable areas protected, making it virtually impregnable. I really like the outward radiating lines that these spikes make. It really reminds me of the Christmas tree I set up way back, putting in branch after branch. And contrast to that, these two forward-pointing wing finger claws. From the back, the symmetry of this is almost heart-shaped. Really beautiful and aesthetically pleasing to me. The non-spiky bits are also given strict attention to detail. You can see the texturing of the scale, almost a dithering kind of effect. And even on the inside, where we wouldn't ordinarily see, you'll see they haven't gone lazy on detail, and that just speaks to pride and professionalism. Now the base is also noteworthy. It's a kind of crystalline pillar, which is probably a nod to a scene of the Nergigante environs in the game. See here the detail in the various textures, like the cracks, the fractures, and the facets. Painted in a nice kind of a gunmetal and a metallic purple blend, which gleams quite pleasingly depending on the angle of the light. And all in all, a very fitting base for a terrifyingly awesome dragon. Now, there are a few things to take note of. First, because this Nergigante is looking down, to see the face, you really want to have it on a higher shelf. That's how it looks really imposing, as if about to leap on you and to kill you. From this vantage point, however, you will lose sight of this incredible array of spikes, so there's a limitation to how you display it to show all its features. And second, having it on a higher shelf, you need to consider that this is heavy, damn heavy. Now this weighs 1.8 kilograms or 4 pounds, so your shelf had better be strong. At best, it causes a crash and everything shatters. At worst, it falls on your head or your foot. And thirdly, you'll have a challenge with dust. Some of you have asked me how I find the space to display all my models. Well, I don't. Some I periodically give away to children's charities, a few I may sell, and yet others I rotate in and out of storage. Well, the beauty of Nergigante is also its Achilles heel, display-wise. You can well imagine how dust will settle into these nooks and crannies, making it near impossible to completely clean out. That means that until I get that fantasy display I've dreamt about with sliding doors, this one goes back into its plastic sarcophagus after this review. As a little bonus for you, here's the Figure Builder version. Now the Figure Builders are, as described in my other videos, much smaller gashapon type versions of the creator models, but amazingly well detailed and painted for their size. Now this one comes in 3 parts, the body and the 2 wings. You can see how small this is compared to the creator's model. Yet even at this scale, the sculpted detail captures all Nergigante's main features, as well as paint application that looks like it belongs on a much larger canvas. For example, in the main body, you see that from the horns, and down the back, and all the way to the tail, just such detail and color. And from the other side, you appreciate the color blend down the ventral surface of the animal. The fangs, the spikes, and the claws we saw in the creator's model are also represented here. And then the wings too. I'll just look at that detail in the wings, the ribs, and the color. Now put together, this is a very good quality mini representation of Nergigante. Even if you never got the creator's model, I think you'd do very well indeed with this one. So that's it for this review. Have a Merry Christmas, my friends, and I'll see you in the New Year special.